Welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about life, relationships, and being human. I'm Sean Slevin, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you have a question for me, you can submit that anonymously at asksean.org. So this is one of my kind of more informal, kind of in-process videos. I'm coming back from horseback riding, and before that, I had a session with my physical therapist, and he was working on my feet. This part's not actually terribly important, but I switched to barefoot minimalist style footwear earlier this year, which I highly recommend. It's been great, been a great choice. But I'm still building up kind of strength and my kind of, muscle endurance in my feet. And I had done a hike a week ago that was longer than I had done previously in this kind of footwear. So I was getting a little bit of, just my feet were a little inflamed, a little bit of kind of plantar fasciitis. And so what is relevant to what I want to talk about is this physical therapist. He's the best PT I've ever worked with. He has an astoundingly effective, intuitive sense of things. And this is getting to kind of the thing I've been thinking about that I wanted to kind of process here a little bit, is like, he's comfortable causing a bit of pain, which can sound like sketchy at first or something, right? Like, especially in our current kind of culture. But it's pain with a purpose. It's good pain. So if you've never had issues with your feet, feet are really sensitive. My PT has worked on other parts of my body, and he's very skilled at like getting in at the spots, right at the spot that is needing attention. And so I was really feeling that today as he's working on my feet and working out the fascia and whatnot. But one of the things about him that's interesting is he has a background in kind of various martial arts and kind of fighting forms. And he's not a mean person at all. He's very kind, super friendly. So his experience in various forms of fighting is not coming from any kind of like yucky masculine aggression, abusive kind of stuff. But I don't know, I just was thinking about how the connection between our capacity, our being, I don't know, having maybe made some peace with our capacity to do harm, and how that relates to an expanded capacity to do good. Which is, I don't know, it can feel a little bit paradoxical. It certainly can feel uncomfortable and kind of dangerous. Again, we're in a time in our culture that I think in a good way is really recognizing all sorts of ways that humans can be horrible to each other. That, while any of us can do great harm to one another, and we all have done harm to one another and to ourselves. And so I think, there's a lot of good in terms of, the ways our culture is bringing attention to that. And though I think one of the struggles in our culture is, one of the reactions is, okay, so therefore we're afraid of anything that feels in that direction, which actually doesn't really work. I mean, one of the things we're seeing is like, we're still being horrible to each other. Like that actually, our being fearful of those energies isn't really, doesn't seem to be solving anything. Being fearful and shaming of those energies. I think so. I don't know. I think there's some kind of principle here, I suspect, about human beings that, because I've seen this in my own work as a counselor, like as I have kind of worked with my own fears about doing harm, and as and how that's intertwined with the ways that I have been harmed. So as I've entered into that pain, been with that grief over and over again, and found that like actually I can come to some healing and some peace there. It's expanded my ability to be comfortable with risking the possibility of others feeling harmed, or even of my making a mistake or something, or misgauging something like in a therapy session or in friendship. but what's been really powerful, and I've had clients repeatedly comment on this, like it's really opened the door to therapeutic change in some really profound ways. Because here's the thing, like we can't there's no way to guarantee not doing harm, and we can do harm through inaction, just as much as through gross action. Um, and so there was ways that I have failed clients in the past because I was so afraid of of taking a risk. I was so afraid of like, oh, but if I get this wrong, they might feel a bit hurt, and so I hung back too much, and I didn't fully engage with them in the ways that they needed, and of course, that's shown up in other contexts, other relational contexts in my life and whatnot as well. And so it's really transformed my work and my personal relationships as I have gotten more comfortable with, I guess, really believing in our capacity as humans to work through those messy moments. And so I'm more comfortable challenging folks, like not in a mean way or demanding way, but just really inviting, uh, firmly inviting, folks to look at hard things and to move towards growth that seems like is trying to happen. And it's not that I always get it right, like, because I don't, but it's like my being willing, my developing the capacity to be brave there invites my clients or my friends to do the same. And so it opens up these really rich places. Like, are they a bit more messy? Yeah, it's certainly more vulnerable. But a whole lot more life can happen there. A whole lot more change can happen there. And so yeah, there's something about, I don't know. There's something about this interrelationship between our being connected to our capacity to do harm and our reckoning with that and not being so afraid of that, like having a respect for it, right? Like, um, like this PT, and I would say this about myself as well. Like, I mean, he has a great respect for like sort of boundaries and just yeah, like how much we can hurt each other, um, like but it's like it's not this isn't like a being whatever loosey goosey or casual with um, our capacity to harm one another, but rather like getting, in a sense, getting closer with it, and like instead of just being terrified of it, it's like I'm going to face this thing and I'm going to move into it. I mean, it's like with my work with horses. I mean, I started working with horses because I was terrified of them, because I was thrown off as a kid, and that yeah kind of was like emotionally scarred me. And they're just they're big and they're powerful, and so I've had so much fear about being around them and certainly about riding them, about jumping them was way out there. And I was like, I need to deal with this fear, like, and because it was emblematic of how I could be afraid of other things, right? And in some ways, it's emblematic of being afraid of my own strength. I'm afraid of the strength in this other being, in a similar way to how I was afraid of like living into mine. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. There's just some really important dynamics here. I mean, obviously I'm still kind of teasing out how to think about and how to talk about this, um, but yeah, I suspect that some of the best healers in the world are people who actually are very intimately connected with their capacity for doing great harm. And as part of that, they're connected with how they have been harmed greatly, and how they have harmed others and failed others, and as well as just there's that potential. Um, and that by being able to be brave enough to face those things, grapple with those things, to make repair in places where they have hurt people, that actually makes them much more profoundly, I suspect, capable of helping folks and helping more significant, deeper, lasting, um, more intense change happen. Um, so yeah, just some things I'm chewing on today, and would just invite you to ponder. Where are the places where you are afraid of your own strength, where you're afraid of your own power, you're afraid of your own ability to cause harm, And I would invite you to wonder about how that fear of causing harm might actually keep you from doing good. How might you actually have been, and maybe are, like committing an indirect harm by failing to show up, by failing to engage, by failing to risk, by failing to be brave. How can that in its own way be just as damaging, sometimes maybe more damaging? And yeah, and where could you take a little bit of a risk? Where could you press into these places? Where is there pain you need to face in terms of how you've been harmed? What's sort of the work that's calling to you right now, the work of healing and transformation. So yeah, well, that's all for now. Until next time, peace be with you.